On March 30th, Scarlet and Violet base set will release exclusively on Pokemon TCG Live now that content support has ended for PTCGO. While I'm fairly disappointed with the set overall, there's still a few cards you should absolutely be crafting in Live to help make your decks even better. Before I get to them though, I will mention that we're potentially getting 7 new free decks when the Battle Pass changes on March 30th. You can see more details in the video I posted last month, but essentially, there's a good chance that cards like Nest Ball, Electricity Generator, Rideon EX, Arcanine EX, and more will be given away for free. So make sure you claim the free decks on the Scarlet and Violet Battle Pass before crafting any of these cards, as they may be included at no extra charge. With that out of the way, let's look at the special energy you should be crafting in Scarlet and Violet base set. Well, there isn't any, so we'll take a look at the items first instead. Probably the most powerful card releasing in base set is Electricity Generator. So, do you remember Max Elixir from XY Breakpoint and how crazy powerful it was? Electricity Generator is better than Max Elixir, though it only works on lightning types. Electricity Generator lets you look at the top 5 cards of your deck, then you attach up to 2 lightning energy to your bench lightning Pokemon in any way you like. It's truly insane, so get 4. Nest Ball is a card you absolutely need 4 copies of. It's a reprint of Nest Ball from Sun and Moon base set, allowing you to put any basic Pokemon directly onto your bench. It's effectively our Quick Ball replacement, just be aware that something like Lumineon V's ability won't activate when used with Nest Ball, since Lumineon came from your deck, not your hand. I've seen new players make that mistake far too often. I, of course, would never be that careless. Since I see this question asked a lot, I'll quickly show you how to craft cards you don't own. While editing a deck, go to Filters, then under Show Cards, click All. Now every card in that format will appear. If you want to see every card available in Live, select All under Format as well. Then you have to click on the card, select the art you want under Available, then hit Exchange and confirm exchange. It's a simple 6-step process. A big change coming this month is the Tool Card errata. When rotation hits on March 30th, tool cards will no longer be considered item cards and will instead have their own category. In terms of new tools in Scarlet and Violet, the only one worth crafting is Defiant Band, which boosts the damage you deal by 30 if you're behind on prize cards. Rock Chestplate could also be good to have in your collection in case we receive any good fighting type Pokemon in the future. Now for the stadiums. We're getting 2 really good ones in base set. Beach Court reduces the retreat cost of basic Pokemon by 1, meaning it is an absolute must in Lost Zone decks, allowing a Comfey to retreat for free. Top lists in Japan only play 2, but you should probably craft 3 just to be safe. Mesa Goza, meanwhile, allows either player to flip a coin. If it's heads, they can go and get any Pokemon from their deck and put it into their hand. This is great for any deck that has evolutions, and you'll want to craft 3 of them. While Nest Ball is a reprint of a card that had rotated out of Standard, I won't be talking about the other reprints coming in base set, of which there are a lot. Most of them are reprints of cards currently in Standard, but there will be new Professor's Research arts for both Turo and Sada. And it's worth mentioning that Youngster is literally just Shauna with a different name. As for the new supporters coming on March 30th, there's a few notable ones. Arven lets you get any item and any tool from your deck. For something like Mew VMAX, Arven means you can find a Lost Vacuum to bump past to the peak, as well as Forest Seal Stone to activate the V-Star power. Miriam shuffles up to 5 Pokemon back into your deck, then draws you 3 cards. This is great for single prize decks like Malamar and Zoroark, who are impacted by the loss of Ordinary Rod. And finally, we have Penny. Sort of like Sharon's Care, Penny allows you to put any basic Pokemon and all attached cards back into your hand. This is good for Pokemon like Lumineon V and Radiant Eternatus, who you may want to reuse at some point, or who you don't want taking up a bench space during the game. Since they only cost 100 credits each, get at least 2 copies of all 3 of these new supporters. Now onto the Pokemon, beginning with the support Pokemon. With Lost Zone decks ruling in Japan right now, Klefki looks to be a good way to try and slow them down. The ability, Mischievous Lock, shuts off all basic Pokemon abilities on both sides of the field. This means Comfey can't use Flower Selecting, and Lumineon V can't use Luminous Sign. The downside to Klefki is that it has to be in the active spot, and because of Escape Rope, you'll need to have 2 in play to truly take advantage of it. So not only does it take up 2 spots in play in a format without Scoop Up Net, but if the Lost Zone deck does manage to get up and running, you have 2 easy targets for Sableye later in the game. Still, you probably want to own 4 copies. One of the reasons why Klefki becomes a liability later in the game is because of Hawlucha. If your opponent is able to put a Hawlucha down and ping 2 Klefki, obviously Klefki can't be in your active spot for this to happen, then all of a sudden Sableye can take 2 easy prizes. Hawlucha then itself becomes a liability for the other player, so it is a high skill Pokemon, but it can definitely help fix math for Lost Zone players. Unfortunately, we don't have anything coming in base set to fill the hole left by Crobat V. In terms of Pokemon that do allow you to draw cards, we have Revavroom. By discarding an energy from your hand, you can draw until you have 6 cards in your hand. Personally, I think it's a worse Babarrel. Whereas Babarrel just draws you to 5 without any hassle, Revavroom forces you to have an energy in hand. If you don't have the energy, it's a useless Pokemon, meaning an opponent's late game Roxanne can really hurt you. We also have Skwovet. This puts your entire hand on the bottom of the deck, then draws you 1 card. Used in tandem with Babarrel, it can be useful, but overall I don't think Skwovet or Revavroom are must-own cards right now. One very interesting Pokemon with a lot of utility is Armarouge. At first, the ability seems pedestrian. As often as you like during your turn, you can move a fire energy from one of your bench Pokemon to your active Pokemon. But when paired with Magma Basin, which attaches an energy to Armarouge, it suddenly has a ton of use. Now decks like Zoroark that suffer with the loss of Twin Energy can attack turn after turn. Or a deck like Arceus V-Star doesn't have to worry about missing a turn 1 energy attachment. You just have to get a Charcadet down turn 1 and worry about the Magma Basin and double Turbo Energy the following turn. Armarouge isn't the perfect solution to some of the problems presented post-rotation, but it can get the job done. To bridge the gap between support Pokemon and attacking Pokemon, we have Spidops EX. The ability of Spidops EX increases the retreat cost of your opponent's active Pokemon by 1. So effectively, if you get 2 in play, it's a Galar Mine replacement. Spidops itself can attack, but you'll want to pair it with Leafeon VMAX to do as much damage as possible. You can power up Leafeon using Leafeon V's ability the previous turn, as well as Armarouge, Gardenia, or even Melanie. Another interesting thing about Spidops and the whole EX mechanic is that they can be stage 1s. So now Zoroark can Phantom Transformation into a Spidops EX, or Hypno can just go and get 2 of them from your deck. Since Spidops EX is a fairly niche Pokemon, I can't say it's a must craft. So if you do decide to build a deck featuring Spidops, it'll be up to you to decide if you want more than 2. I guess technically Gardevoir EX is also an attacking and support Pokemon, but it deserves to be in the attacking section. Gardevoir EX is the best new Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet base set, able to flood the field with energy. The ability says, as often as you like during your turn, you may attach a basic Psychic energy from your discard pile to one of your Psychic Pokemon. If you do, put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. This is absolutely nuts. You can literally go from 0 energy on something like Zacian V to having 10 energy on it in the same turn, dealing 360 damage as a result. While Gardevoir EX is a stage 2 and that presents its own problems, there is the added benefit of using Gardevoir from Chilling Reign. Not only does that Gardevoir draw you cards every turn, but it can deal 240 damage by attaching 6 energy to it. Pretty much any decent Psychic Pokemon can be a potential attacker in Gardevoir EX, including Drifloon, which does 180 damage if you put 3 energy on it with Gardevoir's ability. And don't forget that the Kirlia in this deck are also great. Refinement Kirlia discards a card and draws you 2 cards, while Mirage Step Kirlia can put 3 Kirlia directly onto your bench from your deck. Lists in Japan are only playing 2 copies of Gardevoir EX, so set aside 1500 credits for them. Remember Electricity Generator? While we don't necessarily have the perfect partner for it yet, Rideon EX is a good early option. Rideon EX has a really crazy ability. Once per Rideon, you can put 2 basic lightning Pokemon from your deck onto your bench. So if you start Rideon, you can go get Rideon and Regieleki V. Then with that second Rideon, 2 more Regieleki V. Not only have you thinned your deck and improved the odds of Electricity Generator, but you're also ready to evolve your Regieleki V into Regieleki VMAX the following turn. Rideon EX's Photon Blaster only does 210 damage, but with enough Regieleki VMAX in play, each of them boosting the damage by 30, you can take huge one-shot KOs beginning on turn 2. And if you want a new single prize attacker for this deck, go with the new Pachirisu, which does more damage based on the number of lightning Pokemon on your bench. Unfortunately, Pachirisu doesn't hit for weakness, so don't send it up against a Lugia V-Star. If Miraidon doesn't end up being one of the free decks in the Scarlet and Violet Battle Pass, the deck as a whole will cost a lot to craft, because it has Regieleki V and Regieleki VMAX, so it could cost upwards of 9,000 credits to craft from scratch. I'll let you decide if it's worth it. Switching to single prize Pokemon for a second, I'm irrationally excited for Greavard. Will it be bad? Probably. But Greavard does 10 damage for each Psychic Pokemon in your discard pile, while Houndstone does 80 plus 10. Pair it with Kirlia, Gardevoir EX, and Mewtwo V-Union, and you have a deck that exists. There's also Dondozo and Tatsugiri. With a double turbo energy attached and 4 Tatsugiri in your discard pile, Dondozo does 180 damage. It's not the best deck ever created, but it'll be fairly cheap. If you want to hit a little harder, the Mousehold deck does 70 damage for each Mousehold you have in play. With double turbo energy and 4 Mousehold, that's 260 damage. Obviously, prizing can mess you up, but using Zoroark means getting 4 into play won't be impossible. And Zoroark also allows you to use additional attackers like Flapple, Appleton, Slowbro, and Mightyena if you want to. And for those of you who think Durant is too consistent, we have Wiglet. For 3 energy, which can be done with a combination of Cherim and double turbo energy, you flip 3 coins. For each heads, you discard the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck. So flip 3 heads, discard 9 cards. The loss of Glimwood Tangle means you're taking a huge risk, but imagine the possibilities. Back to EXs, we have our first Terrestrial Pokemon, Oinkeloni EX. It appears that all Terrestrial Pokemon will have the added effect of being safe from damage while on the bench. Unfortunately, that's about the only interesting thing about Oinkeloni terrestrializing. It's still a fire type, but the attacks are decent. Raging Claws is good for putting a bit of chip damage on somebody, while also being really good if Oinkeloni takes a big hit and survives. Then you have Bright Flame for 3 energy, which does 250 damage, though you do have to discard energy. Getting Oinkeloni powered up turn after turn won't be the easiest task, but using Rapidash to boost damage and Victini to accelerate energy could be a decent strategy. Now, I know all of you are super sad that we're losing Vikavolt via an item lock, but don't worry. Banette EX is here to save us. Banette EX has a single energy item lock attack that does 30 damage. On top of that, Poltergeist does 60 damage for each trainer card in your opponent's hand. Problem is, when rotation hits live on the 30th, tool cards will no longer be item cards, they'll be in their own category. So your opponent can still play tools even under item lock, lowering the potential damage and potential usefulness of Banette. I haven't forgot about the little piggy. Oinkeloni X probably won't do a whole lot, but when the strategy works, it can be very annoying. Using a combination of cards like V-Dart Energy, Full Face Dart, and Charon's Care, as well as Path to the Peak and Echoing Horn, the pig's whole goal is to survive a hit, heal off the damage, then hit hard in return with its first attack, which does 10 damage plus 30 more for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Let's get back to rapid fire cards that aren't worth crafting, but could be something someday maybe if you're bored and crazy. King Gambit boosts the damage of your basic Pokemon by 30, and it stacks. Heracross could be a single prize attacker in Spidops EX. Magnezone EX can absolutely obliterate a Lugia V-Star. Pawmot could be a terrible way to boost the damage in a Bolton VMAX deck. Annihilate could be a thing, dealing 350 damage for a single fighting energy if your opponent has taken 5 prize cards. And Indeedee is probably my favorite card in the set no one's talking about. It can be put into any evolution deck, and for a single colorless energy, it evolves any Pokemon on your side of the field. Definitely useful if you want to get a Stage 1 EX into play and not worry about having your weaker pre-evolution get knocked out. Ultimately, there aren't a whole lot of must-have cards coming in Scarlet and Violet base set. That's good news for people without a lot of credits, bad news for people hoping that Standard sees a major shakeup. If you want to craft all of the best cards in base set aside 7,000 credits. I left Rideon EX off of the must-craft list, but it's probably somewhere in between. If you do plan on playing a Lightning deck though, it'll make it much better. If you're disappointed by base set like I am, there is a Rayquaza of hope. Paldea Evolved will shake up Standard, giving us a lot of powerful cards, like Iono, which is what would happen if Anne and Marnie had a baby. I'll post more videos about the second Scarlet and Violet set as we get closer to the English release on June 9th. What cards are you planning on crafting in TCG Live? Let everyone know in the comments.